morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, so today I'm going to be showing you a very exciting new Zekrom card. But before I show you Zekrom, I'm actually a little bit more excited about the fact that this morning I got confirmation that this channel has hit 20,000 subscribers. That is a much, much higher number than I ever expected to hit, so thank you very much to all of you who have subscribed, and anyone watching this that hasn't, you know what to do. So, Zekrom is coming out in the Shining Legend set, which is coming out in October. It is a lightning Pokemon, which means it's really not hitting very much for weakness at the moment. And the weakness to fighting is actually a little bit annoying because, well, Marshadow looks like it's going to be really good in the near future. It's a basic GX that can use the attacks of any Pokemon in your discard pile as long as it's got the correct energy, which means it can basically be teched into any deck to take down fighting Pokemon. And with cards like Darkrai, Drampa and Zoroark running around, people are going to be wanting to tech against fighting weak Pokemon. So, not the best typing as it is. The retreat of 3 is rather large, but does mean you have access to Heavy Ball, so not the end of the world, and 130 HP at this moment is basically about standard. And he has a resistance to metal, which, say it with me kids, is always a good thing. Now, the first attack here might seem a little bit familiar. For 2 colourless energy, you do 20 damage, plus 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So if you've got 20 damage on Zekrom, he does 40. You can have up to 120 damage on him and do 140. In fact, if you play a Fighting Fury belt, and Zekrom is a basic so can use it, you can actually have 16 damage counters on and be hitting for 180. Although Field Blower nowadays makes Fighting Fury bout an awful lot less good, and there aren't that many players out there who are going to leave you on 160 damage hoping you don't use Outrage. That's not something you should be expecting to happen. And of course, we've all seen that Tauros GX has seen a little bit of play because it's got the same style of attacks, so it can work. Although, to be fair, Mad Bull GX is an awful lot more powerful than Outrage. And don't forget, of course, that being colourless energy means that this can be teched into any deck whatsoever to give you a lightning-style attacker. And, of course, let's not be forgetting that you can use double colourless energy here. And at a push, with a Choice Band and a Professor Kukui, you are hitting 70 damage here, which does give you a lightning-type attacker that can hit for 140. So if you are running a deck that's desperate for a lightning-type attacker, you could do worse than running Zekrom for Outrage. But there's 2 main types for these, I like to call them Outrage Pokemon or Wall Pokemon. Firstly, you use them as a wall. You use them as a hit and run Pokemon, or indeed just to buy a little bit of time. Now, I talked about this in my recent Reshiram video, because of course the new Reshiram is very much like the old Reshiram, and I suppose I should point out at this stage that this Outrage attack on this Zekrom is surprisingly familiar to the Outrage attack on the black and white Zekrom, which was reprinted once or twice, shall we say. Now, we don't have many great hit-and-run Pokemon in the format at the moment, but I'll give you one that I didn't mention in my Reshiram video, Umbreon. Now, Umbreon is not a bad Pokemon by any stretch of the imagination, it's just not particularly amazing. But don't forget, we've got the Energy Evolution Eevee, which allows you to evolve into Umbreon straight away. You attach a Dark Energy to Eevee and then you get to search for Umbreon and evolve it straight away. Then you can do 30 damage and switch to the bench. And now we've got Zekrom, and remember that Reshiram has the same Outrage attack, just on a fire type. So you've got Zekrom and a Reshiram here that you can chuck up as walls, so your opponent hits into a Pokemon that can hit them back harder after using Strafe. And of course you then got Dark type with Umbreon, Lightning type with Zekrom, and Fire type with Reshiram. And of course Umbreon's Shadow Bullet and Dark Cool are not terrible attacks either. The other good use you can make for this is with a bench damaging Pokemon. Now, the example I gave you in the Reshiram video was Dugtrio from X and Y, although it was reprinted in Generations, so you can expect it, if there is a rotation, to still be legal after the rotation. And the theory here is very simple. You attack with Dugtrio, but oh no, you're damaging your bench at the same time. Really not a problem, because the more you damage Zekrom on the bench, the more damage Zekrom is going to come and do with his outrage attack. Sounds like a good thing. And now, of course, you've got Zekrom and you've got Reshiram, so you're hitting for two different typings with outrage, although you still don't have Kyurem in the standard format, upsettingly. And we've now pretty much seen, I believe, the entire set list for Shining Legends. It really doesn't look like we're getting Kyurem. Now, this is the same for Black and White. We did get the Zekrom and Reshiram in the Black and White base set, but we actually had to wait to get the Kyurem with outrage, and we had to wait all the way until Noble Victories came out, which was a little bit mean, to be perfectly honest. So one of my questions right now is, are we going to be getting a reprint of the outrage Kyurem just in a set or two's time? I kind of hope so, because if you're going to be using these outrage attackers, they're colourless energy, so they can be put in any deck. It's nice to have a trio of typings to use. Now, the second attack on Zekrom here, for 2 lightning and a colourless energy, 3 in total, does 130 damage, and you discard 2 energy attached to Zekrom. So weirdly, this isn't like the second attack of the Black and White Zekrom. It is, in fact, nearly identical to the second attack of Black and White Reshiram. Now, we are going to need a confirmation on the translation here, because, of course, the old Reshiram said you had to discard 2 fire energy, and at the moment, the translation we have is that you have to discard 2 energy. And if we look at the wording in Japanese, there is no lightning energy symbol there, so it very much looks like it is just discarding 2 energy. And this is very, very different, because if you can discard 2 energy to do this attack, it means you put 2 lightning and a double colourless on Zekrom, discard the double colourless. Next turn you put a double colourless on Zekrom, do 130, discard the double colourless. This makes a big difference, and it does very much look to be energy, not lightning energy. This is actually a really nice attack, ladies and gentlemen. The one downside is with a Choice Band and Kukui you're hitting 180, which really isn't great. It means you're getting one-hit KOs on some basic GXs like Tauros and Drampa, but then you're not hitting ones like Lapras, so it's not amazing here, but it's decent. Being able to use a double colourless here is nice. But if you don't want to use double colourless energy, we have other options for getting the 2 energy on there. We've got Max Elixir, seeing that Zekrom is a basic, which is always nice. We've got Electrode, but the thing I really don't like about Electrode here is that you've got to give up a prize to attach Electrode as a special energy card. The good news is you attach Electrode, then immediately discard it, so you're not weak to things like Enhanced Hammer, because you're never leaving Electrode on there during your opponent's turn, and it does mean that you can go Lightning Energy Electrode go. I mean, I suppose technically with a Wally you could even do this to do 130 damage on turn 1, like the old Zekrom used to do, using a combination of Pachirisu and Shaman. Although I am not by any suggesting you use Wally and Electrode to try and get a turn 1 Zekrom. Fun as a donk deck online or at League, but I really don't suggest taking this to a tournament. Although I suppose, now we've got Tapu Lele, it is easier than ever to find that turn 1 Wally. But I fear that's a fun idea rather than a competitive idea. We've got the new Raikou, whose attack is just an electric version of Oblivion Wing, but I fear this is a little bit slow. And honestly, the best option we've got here is Vikavolt, because you can attach a lightning and a grass from the deck, and then just attach a lightning energy from your hand, and you've got the free energy ready to go. You can get it going in 1 turn this way, which I really, really like. Now, the damage here is not good enough for big one-hit KOs, but 130 means you will be 2-hit KOing anything, even monster GXs like Metagross. And if you're hitting for weakness, you will be 1-hit KOing anything. So it's certainly not the end of the world, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a little bit weak. But when you combine it with stuff like Vikavolt, as a non-GX attacker, hitting for up to 180 that you can get going in a single turn, you know what? This is not a bad non-GX attacker at all. Now, before we end this video, I must inform you that Stark Maximum is a lovely person. They are supporting me over at patreon.com/PTCGRadio, and go check their website out if you want to support this channel as well. They are a lovely person, and I think you all need to know this. I am giving Zekrom free Wassies. It's a nice non-GX tech. If you really want a non-GX lightning attacker, this is pretty good, to be perfectly honest. Is it better than the non-GX Tapu Koko? I mean, it hits for a little bit more damage, so probably not, but it is a nice non-GX attacker. It does a decent amount of damage. And if we ever get a Stage 2 Lightning Weak GX, this is going to be a great tech to take it down. Free Wassies seems about fair. Now, you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Stick a comment down below if you have anything to say. Go nuts. Be nice. Make sure you follow me on Twitter @TheWassie. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and check me out on twitch.tv/PTCGRadio for some live PTCG radio action. The most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.